Hi, I'm Olivia, and today's happy nugget comes from Frank McCourt, the American writer who won the Pulitzer Prize in 1997 for his remarkable memoir, Angela's Ashes, one of my favorite memoirs, from the beginning of Angela's Ashes. When I look back on my childhood, I wonder how I survived at all. It was, of course, a miserable childhood. The happy childhood is hardly worth your while. Worse than the ordinary miserable childhood is the miserable Irish childhood, and worse yet is the miserable Irish Catholic childhood. People everywhere brag and whimper about the woes of their early years, but nothing can compare with the Irish version: the poverty, the shiftless, loquacious alcoholic father, the pious, defeated mother moaning by the fire, pompous priests, bullying schoolmasters, the English and the terrible things they did to us for 800 long years. Above all, we were wet. Out in the Atlantic Ocean, great sheets of rain gathered to drift slowly up the River Shannon and settle forever in Limerick. The rain dampened the city from the Feast of the Circumcision to New Year's Eve. It created a cacophony of hacking coughs, bronchial rattles, asthmatic wheezes, consumptive croaks. It turned noses into fountains, lungs into bacterial sponges. The rain drove us into the church, our refuge, our strength, our only dry place. At Mass benediction novenas, we huddled in great damp clumps, dozing through priest drone, while steam rose again from our clothes to mingle with the sweetness of incense, flowers, and candles. Limerick gained a reputation for piety, but we knew it was only the rain. Frank McCourt could tell a story, that wonderful Irish quality of spinning a yarn out of life's seemingly most mundane moments. Everyone has a story to tell, but not everyone can write it in a way that allows us to live and share vividly in their experiences. Frank McCourt was born in 1930 in Brooklyn to Irish immigrant parents. Unable to find work during the American Depression, they returned to Ireland when McCourt was 4 years old to live in abject poverty and squalor in a rain-soaked slum in Limerick. His father was an alcoholic, drinking up whatever money he managed to scrounge up, eventually abandoning them altogether on the edge of starvation without a source of income. His mother begged for charity and lived off the scant help from relatives. 3 of his siblings died during childhood due to diseases aggravated from malnutrition. The title Angela's Ashes refers to the memory of his mother, staring at the ashes of the unlit fireplace. When he was 13, McCourt dropped out of school, alternating between odd jobs and stealing bread and milk to feed himself and his family. In 1949, when he was 19, he moved to New York with money he'd saved up from delivering telegrams. He worked menial jobs until he was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. His impoverished childhood had shattered his confidence and left him with minimal expectations. He never expected to go to college. He was ready to settle in a low-level job. But after his military service, he used his GI Bill education benefits and talked his way into New York University in spite of not having a high school degree. Afterwards, he taught in the New York City public school system for 27 years. He tried writing during summer breaks, but was not able to crystallize his vision until he retired when he was 58 years old. Angela's Ashes is filled with razor-sharp memories, the result of what McCourt called an uncluttered life. No television, no radio, nothing. He and his brother would read by the street light at the top of the lane, acting out P.G. Wodehouse stories, and always observing the habits and conditions of their neighbors. Angela's Ashes is the first of a trilogy of memoirs by McCourt, the others being Tis and Teacher Man, which combined have sold over 10 million copies. McCourt felt he had a responsibility towards his family and to the people who shaped his life. He wanted to convey their dignity, the way they dealt with adversity and poverty, their good Irish humor. While he depicted the tragedy of his impoverished childhood with humor and compassion masterfully, there's not a trace of pity or sentimentalism. Just the point of view of a little boy having to survive. While one paragraph makes you want to cry, the next has you on the floor laughing at the absurdity of it all. In an interview on the subject of his teaching, Frank McCourt said, "I taught what they call creative writing. I tried to show my students the significance of their own lives, which they sometimes thought insignificant. I hoped they'd realize the value of their own lives, that they were good enough to write about. So they took the plunge and they wrote, and some were willing to read to the class, and I think they were glad they did. Then they'd say to me, Why don't you write something and read it to the class? And I did, more and more. Great teachers are like rare jewels, with a selflessness and a wisdom that can have a lasting impact in our lives. When life gives you one, cherish them and let them know how much they mean to you.